Boo, I just go live.
I was born ready, man.
I got a question for you. It has nothing to do with your book. Have you reached the old man stage where like you get up early in the morning and get your stuff done like 6 a.m. or something like that?
Oh man, sometimes I'm up at 4.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
my sleep's messed up. I can't sleep in anymore.
It's a craft that you lose because no matter how much I want to sleep in, I spent I'm not kidding, 3 hours playing Evil Uncle Aaron. The rules of which I'm still trying to figure out. But it involves me tossing 40-pound kids into the couch repeatedly and then getting struck by the crystal of overpowering and counting to 10 and running and hunting them down again. And I would have liked to sleep in earlier today, and I just couldn't. I was up at like 6 a.m. and
I wish I could sleep until 6, man. That's like 6 a.m. is sleeping in for me now.
Yeah. No, and I'm starting to understand what my old man said. Like, he gets up at 5 a.m. and goes hang out with guys over at McDonald's and get their coffee. And I'm like, why would you do that? Now I'm like, oh yeah, you don't have a choice.
That's right. What's going on, man?
Nothing. This is it. This is our life. Is this where you thought you'd be? Is this where you imagined yourself when you were a 20-year-old young Rich Cooper? Is this where you thought you'd be?
Dude, I didn't even think that I'd ever be talking to you when I was listening to your audiobook, Bachelor Pad Economics, whatever it was 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when someone says, oh yeah, Rich did a review. I'm like, who's this guy? I'm like, oh, cool, he did. I remember I was hiking the Sabino Canyon over in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm like, holy crap, this guy's pretty big. He did that. Let's talk about this. I hate to pay you a compliment. I really hate to pay you a compliment, but this is a damn good book, Rich. That's good.
I know.
I mean, it's your first book, right?
Technically third, but yeah, first for men dealing with, issues that men need to pay attention to so they don't screw up their lives.
Well, what were the other 2 books? Because I thought this was like your first shot at it. And I was like,
in debt. I did books. I did one book in 2010 to 12 or so, which dealt with settling your own debt. Basically, everything that we did in our debt business, people could do themselves. I just wrote like a DIY guide. I figured there's people that are going to try it anyway, so I might as well try to capitalize on it. And when they screw it up, then they can contact us.
Right. Well, what was the second book then? Same thing? Kind of
more like a booklet. It was like a 30-pager for like less than $1 or something like that. That was really just, designed to rank in the algorithms, because there was a big push then at the time to write like little booklets on Amazon to rank and search in certain categories for like debt or credit card debt. So I tried that out too. Okay.
Well, but so this would be considered your first real book then, instead of an instructional. I mean, this is instructional, but I guess maybe the first book of something you actually wanted to write rather than just merely capitalizing off of it.
Yeah, it was 3 years in the making, man. Something that you can do in 30 days, apparently.
3 years? Okay, really? Was it 3 years in the making?
It was roughly about 3 years ago that I first met Rollo. It was about three and a half years ago, and I said to him at the time, I'm like, hey man, I think I'm going to write a book on all this stuff that that I've been learning. Would you want to do the foreword for me? He's like, who are you?
Don't worry, he stands me up all the time. Yeah, who we are.
Yeah, but it was a thought that I had quite a while ago when I started to get some traction on the channel when we first kind of crossed paths.
So 3 years is a long time, and you've had a ton of experience, especially I'd imagine with your online presence and your consulting. That influenced the book at all? I mean, because if you originally set out 3 years ago to write it, I'm sure things have changed in those 3 years.
And this is why it's such a good book, and it outsells yours, Cappy, because I took 3 years to take all of my notes from all my consults and coaching calls and my Zoom sessions with my community, and just like, okay, this shit keeps popping up over and over again. This is where guys keep, tripping over big stuff in their lives. And there's stuff that I left out. I mean, there's a lot of people that have said, well, why didn't you cover this? Or why didn't you cover that? It's like, well, it's a 200-pager on like the big points that I just wanted to distill in a book. And that was everything that I could put in a nice, concise method. So I stuck to the big stuff.
The thing I really like about it, and there's like, you ever read The Way of Men?
I did. Yeah.
That one
on the shelf over here, actually.
Yeah, I mean it's a foundational book.
I agree,
and that's when you really gotta Jack Donovan, you have to read every word he says. And Rollo's books as well. This religion book is 400 pages. I'm like, oh Jesus, I just don't want. It's like
I'm just going to wait for Sam Botta to narrate it, and I'll just listen.
I'm waiting for. I'm kind of like, I really like Rollo, but I don't like him that much to actually read the book. I want to hear it.
Are you a man of God? Are you a religious guy? Because I'm
agnostic.
Yeah.
My dad was a pastor, and that was kind of forced on me. So there's this natural upchuck and resilience against it. But I'm not an idiot either. I had my cancer scare last year and had to face, the abyss. There's still no answer. But no, I'm agnostic. Yeah. Why?
No, I was just wondering because it's a book about religion. So I'm just more curious about the red pill angle leaning into religion than about religion itself.
I don't think it has practical application in the afterlife. What I think the red pill in general, especially Rollo's book, so I'm very curious to figure out where he's going with this book. But whether this is where his book goes or not, one observation I've had about the red pill is that religion in general is about how to live your life, how to capitalize on life. It's an instruction manual. I mean, if you look at any of the main religions, 10 Commandments is, basically
it's a listicle, right?
Right. Well, Leviticus and, don't butcher this, do X and do Y. And there's some wisdom and reason behind it. And maybe when you're older, you'll understand why. But in the meantime, follow these 10 Commandments, and they generally follow along the same path. Now that the traditional religions is either Islam, which has maintained its a traditionalism, which might be a little bit extreme for people with all the killing and everything, but then the complete cuckoldry of Christianity and a popular men are seeking some kind of point, purpose, reason. They're searching for a religion, and the red pill, basically, which is the search for truth, I think is maybe not now for some people, certainly. But I predicted in the future is going to be the substitute religion for men, because they're simply looking for truth and purpose and reason. And we could talk about girls and chasing after, but I think the red pill is a little bit bigger and more philosophical and encompassing than that. But I'm kind of curious where Rollo's book goes with religion. And so I don't know if he's going to address specifically, jettisoning feminism out from Christianity or feminism's attempt to corrupt and infiltrate and infect different religions out there. But I'm kind of
not even religion.
It's but yeah, I don't. Frank, I'm too busy doing stuff to even have those philosophical thoughts right now. I'm pretty sure. Really. Although I'm kind of curious with you. You said we're on the Rule 0. You're going to do more work this year?
Oh yeah.
What? How much do you put in per week?
I work every day, man.
I know. Okay, everybody works. Well, okay, within our group, everybody works every day. But you've never had this is enough. I want to chill out and go sit at a beach or go fish or
I can't travel. What beach can I travel to at this time?
Hudson Bay,
Lake Ontario, and freeze my nuts off and do the polar bear dip. There's no beaches to travel to, man. So I'm like, I'll just double down and get a lot of work done and, put out some great stuff. I got a course I got to work on and some other follow-ups. And I got a great community that I'm, that I always have to put out extra content on that I don't put out on the channel. So, yeah.
Well, what is that more because of the COVID, or is it more your work? Like if you could travel anywhere, would you say, I work when I travel too.
Yeah, I work when I travel too. When I travel, I bring my laptop down and I'll just be like, all right, between 11 and 1 when it's hot as fuck out, I'll just go inside to the air conditioning with my laptop and I'll just work on something, right? And my chick will be sitting by the pool tanning or whatever, and I'll just be like, done. I'll come back out and I'll see you in a bit.
Right. Well, nobody within our group is going to retire. I don't think so, because we can't.
If you retire, you die, man.
You die, right? Exactly.
Dies very quickly.
But have you gotten to the point where it's like, well, maybe I'd like to relax and scale back a bit at all?
I do relax.
You talk about motorcycle riding. I mean, that's very meditative.
Yeah, well, I do relax. I've substituted motorcycle riding for hanging out with guys in supercar clubs and doing rallies and day-long drives and stuff like that. So I take days off. I'm not working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's right. Tuesday afternoons where I'm just like, fuck it, sunny out, I'm going to go do this.
No, and that's a where I'm kind of facing it, where it's like, yeah, I try to explain it to my old man because he doesn't understand. He's trying to understand how I make a living. Like, you could say, well, my daughter does X, my son number 2 does Y, and then Aaron, well, and then he's confused. And it's like, well, I basically go to the internet, I hit the button, and it generates money. It's like an ATM machine. And he's like, and they pay you? I'm like, yeah, they pay me. Like, these people pay you? You're an idiot. I'm like, yes, Dad, I'm an idiot. But and he's confused as to whether to be proud or if he should just be ashamed. He doesn't know. But it's kind of funny watching the old man try to digest what I do for a living, because I myself have tried to digest it. But
yeah, I get that too.
Is your old man still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. He's, he doesn't get it. I mean, he basically spends his day watching BBC News and CNN and, like talking about politics and COVID and just nonsense like that. And I'm just like, he's fucking paranoid about COVID too right now, right? He's telling me that my uncle in England hasn't left the house since fucking March last year. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? And he's like, yeah, no, this is serious, man. There's a whole new strain and it can, really kill you a lot quicker and it's a lot more advanced. We don't know if the vaccine and this. I'm like, Pops, I'm like, you're in your mid 70s. I'm like, if you get this thing and you go, it was your time. It's, it's okay. Just like resign yourself to the fact that it is what it is, right?
He's like,
yeah, I guess it.
But is he the same philosophical mindset as you, as like independence and, if you're going to go, you're going to go? He's more traditional, conservative. I don't mean to be left, right, but
okay, yeah, he's more like a TradCon, blue pillar sort of guy.
Okay. Are your folks still married or?
Yeah, they're still married. I mean,
okay,
happily no, but yeah, married. Yeah. I mean, like, they were never happily married. They just were at each other all the time.
No, I know. I think that's like, well, I know it's about 85% of the marriages based on the numbers I ran, but I just kind of find it curious. We're out here and people look to us as like older brother, or older father figures, or, somehow we're wise. And then we got our old man who was like, you're an idiot. You're a moron. It's like, yeah, okay. Thanks, Dad. I'm just trying to see Mr. Cooper, I'm just trying to see your old man.
I got a couple of videos actually on my channel. I think I did with my dad. I did one where we went for a drive together and we just kind of shot the breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. What's he like? Is he,
here,
I know you say he's more traditional. Is he taller than you? Shorty? Is he bald? What? I mean, I'm just picturing
he's not
shorter
bald.
version of you.
No, he kind of looked like James Hetfield when I was growing up. Like when I was a kid, I don't know if you know the lead singer from Metallica.
James Hetfield. Let me look him up.
But when I was a kid growing up in my teens, he always reminded me of James Hetfield. He was a big, tall, masculine looking dude that was pretty much beta as hell.
All right, I see him here.
Yeah. Here I'll dig up the video and I'll drop you here. I'll just drop in the chat in case you guys want to see it. But yeah, I went for a drive with him once.
Okay. That's kind of cool. I try and protect my old man. He doesn't need this crap. So
I'm not too worried about that. He's a guy that knows how to deal with stuff.
Anyway, I do want to talk about this book though a little bit, because it is good. Our sparring aside, this is a good book. The one thing I'm kind of curious, that why'd you want to write the book? I mean, what compelled you to write? I know you had like some experiences and with your consultations and all that. But, I mean, what compelled you 3 years ago to write this? Because it turned out really well.
There's a lot of books out there covering Evo Psych, covering the red pill, covering, very detailed components of it. Like Rollo can talk for 3 hours, right? And I can say what he can say, says in 3 hours in a distilled 3-minute clip. And that's not to disparage him. I think he's brilliant and he's very good at diving very deep down the rabbit hole. But I find that I'm very, very good at distilling concepts, scraping off all the bull crap, and then just getting right to the point. I mean, I could have written a book that was 1,000 pages and expanded on a ton of shit, but I wanted to keep it short, tight, and clean, and just get right to the point in every single chapter. So that's really why I did it. Is I just wanted to summarize all my work and all the biggest aha moments and just throw it in there.
Well, no, and that's, you did it. And I was thinking about that. Rollo is a deep philosophical, I'm going to have to go and take a drink before I start to digest Rollo's latest book. And this one, I mean, I love it because it's quick. It's to the point, it's digestible. Even at the end, you have you summarize it with the cold, hard truth with your bullet points here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is very important, probably one of the first books people should read, simply because it is digestible. When you're a young man starting to get into the red pill, or starting to realize maybe you were lied to. Because if you were to take on the rational male, even the way of men is a little, you got to have a philosophical mind, be in the right mindset to start tackling that. Mm-hmm. But this is where I'm really like, wow, this is, and even though you could say a lot of people would criticize, well, what has been said in this book that you haven't already said on your podcast? I was still picking up some gems on this. Like, there are 3 or 4 things like, oh, I never thought about that. And no, I think that was very timely. I think there is a market for this where it's, here, you could actually give this to a young man, digest this, read this, and it's not going to be so intimidating, but at the same time, very practical and applicable in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm getting on it. I mean, I'm getting some people that are like, well, if you follow this channel, there's nothing new in it. Well, did you read the book from end to end? Because there's a lot of new shit in there.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. It's like, well, did you watch his channel? Well, yeah, if you watched his channel regularly, religiously, you probably did get 80% of it. Yeah. But how many people go through your archives and all that? And one of the key frustrations I have is when people say, oh, but if you listen to his channel, it's like, okay, yeah, for your regular listeners, yeah, you probably got most of that. But there's not just regular readers. We got a bunch of young men, millions of young men born every year coming in, people searching. And then this is, I think books like this, Modern Life John, a lot of people give him guff for his 101 dating course. It's called SALT, but it's basically a 101 dating course. Mm-hmm. And you don't realize how few people are actually, like, literally he has to tell them, hey, shower, bathe, get a haircut, things like that. And to us and maybe our regular listeners and readers are like, oh yeah, well, we know that. How dare you? You don't realize how many millions of men don't know this. Not to say that your book is that 101, but it's definitely like this introduction that is necessary for a lot of young men.
Somebody said in the comment, if I buy the book, will I get the girls?
There's even a chapter, you will find I believe
a chapter. tipping the hat to the very concept.
It's
you can find it there and just throw it.
Men go their own way. Yeah. Another thing I like about the book, it's a lot of practical stuff, but then it gets to, I think, what is your what's it called? Your epitaph. What you will go down in history for is do the work. I know I'm getting frustrated with my clients, not all of them, but some, when they're always looking for the way not to do the work.
Yeah.
And you conclude at the end of this that you have to do the work. And I've asked this before, like, what percentage of the men are out there willing to do the work and use obesity as a proxy, which is only 30% of the men are willing to stay in shape, willing to go and hit the gym. Do you ever think we're ever going to get that lesson through, or is it human genetic laziness and programming where people just want the easy answer they want and they're not going to settle for anything else? Like, what percent of people adamantly, you could say this is the only way to achieve your goals is to do the work. What percent are still going to upchuck that and refuse it simply because they don't want to put forth the work?
It's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today because when I was a kid, we had classroom sizes somewhere between 30 and 38 kids. And I remember in each classroom, there was probably about somewhere between 2 to maybe 4, like, just beta plebs that, were clearly not jocks, not alpha, would never be able to dominate. And I was thinking, what does that ratio look like today? And I took a look at my kid's classroom picture. I just looked at the kids in the classroom and all the boys, and I'm like, wow, that ratio's flipped almost in the opposite direction completely. I think that society just raises weaker boys today. And that's part of the problem. Like, when you condition kids growing up to, just be yourself, show up and you'll get the participation trophy, be kind and humble and accept everybody for what they are and don't use certain words anymore because they hurt people's feelings and, they're not in safe spaces and stuff like that. It's no wonder you've got guys that are like looking for shortcuts and like, the cheat codes to life that don't exist. There's bound to be people, complaining about my book, like, well, men don't need to become better. Women have to become better, right? It's like, okay, well, this is going to happen, right? There's people out there that just want to read something and think, oh, well, I read it and I see the truth in it, but that doesn't solve my problem. You know, I want to be able to pop a pill or rub a cream under my eye and lose 10 pounds and look 10 years younger. And it's like, dude, it doesn't exist. I mean, anybody that achieved anything worth mentioning throughout history did a shit ton of work on themselves and everything around them. And they always surrounded themselves with really smart people.
What one thing I like about the Book of Many is the cryptic real world assessment of the lopsidedness of how unfair things are, especially in a gynocentric female primary order, as you call it. And even that was one of the things where, like, yeah, I've tuned in, I've paid attention to this show, I know this, but you drove it home more to me, where it's like, holy Christ, like, it really is a female social primary order. Like, women are put number one at the expense of it, and it is completely unfair. And not only did your writing make it that much clearer in my mind, but what are you going to do about it? That's the real world. These are the rules. And the request, I guess, of your call in the book is like, well, guys, too bad.
Yeah.
You know, suck it up. You got to deal with it.
They don't want to hear too bad, though. They want to hear, let's all sulk. Well, not they, but there's a small percentage of the guys that will read it that want to hear, let's get together and hug it out and sing Kumbaya and all sulk together about the shitty hand that we've been dealt, because insert reason why things suck for us.
Right. And there's this therapy group, commiserating circle group of guys that go in that. And you could even say it turns into the black pill at that point. Mm-hmm. But in your book, also in my book, come to the same conclusion. I even quote you in mine. Did you know I had a book out? Did you know I had a book? There was a book that was published as well.
I've heard something about it.
You heard something about that?
Copy. I'm waiting for my copy.
Wait, you didn't get it yet? I already put it in the mail. You haven't gotten it yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, we both come to the same conclusion that you have to take action. Yours is maybe a little bit more like, well, this is a harsh reality, and this is what you got to do. But the answer ends up becoming do the work. But I'm starting to get kind of tired of repeating that when people don't listen. And I'm jacking up my prices now when people basically want me to make the decisions for them and want me to do the heavy lifting. From your perspective, I mean, you make money off of it. Your book is selling very well. But philosophically, I mean, how do you wrestle with that? Because I get pissed. I don't know about you, but I get pissed where it's like people come up to me and say, oh, give me the solution. And you're like, here, do the work. But then no one actually does the work. It's almost a reflection upon humanity. It's like, my God, these are the people I'm with. And what do? Focus on the 10% that do the work? Or, I mean, how do you, because you're solve my problem, Rich. Rich, you come up with here's your solution. And then 80% of them throw it back in your face. Like, it's got to be frustrating.
Aaron, I will solve your problem today.
Okay.
See, I get criticized probably the most for what I charge for one-on-one consults, because I'm $2,000 an hour. If somebody wants to book my time, I only deal with the high-end guys. I deal with entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, airline pilots. You know, I've dealt with top-end, top shelf. I've also dealt with, $150 an hour consults when I first started too. And I found the same thing that you're talking about. And my business coach at the time, because I still kept in touch with him, he's like, you're not charging enough for what you're doing. He's like, there's guys that I know that do what you do that would be talking to entrepreneurs that charge $5,000 an hour, sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, he's right. So I started to increase the rate, and I found that my interaction with the people that were booking me for consults was, far, far better. It's like this. It's like being a racehorse giving pony rides. If you're dealing with the basic that don't want to do the work, it's not going to be fun for you. You're going to be exhausted with it. You're going to get kicked in the hooves and the leg and all that sort of thing. And the horse at the end of the day is going to be like, why am I not on the racetrack running? Right. I mean, I've dealt with hundreds of entrepreneurs. I've been a part of entrepreneurs organization. I've been in forums. I've dealt with guys that have, $40-50 million businesses. I'm not going to move the bar in the life of some guy that can talk to somebody else at $100 an hour. So most of these guys I found anyway were interested in, learning something and wanting to level up. But I found the same thing that you did is, for the most part, they didn't do anything with it. And that's why I have, close to 1,000 videos for free on my channel, basically answering all the main concepts that are really just already there. And then if you want, to buy something for $10, there's a book. It's super cheap, and it's 200 pages, and it's got a lot of density. There's way more value than what Amazon charges for it. Just the way that it is. I mean, the more you charge, the better that your experience is going to be. Like, I know guys that run coaching groups that charge $25,000 a year, or if they come to your office for the day and they work with you one-on-one, for a full day, it's 20 grand, for the day, sort of thing. So you need to charge more. And it's the same thing when somebody emails me their request. I used to get like the most bogus BS, crap, like, how do I get the girls, with no like frame or feedback around what the problem is, for like $25 when I was using this very old platform that I started working with about 3 years ago. And I charge about $200 now, I think, for the requested videos that people email in. And so people go, well, that's too much money, and you're taking advantage of people, and, you're ripping off these simps and blah, blah, blah. Well, don't pay. There's some other guy out there that you can commiserate with and sulk with in the corner, and, work with them if you want to hear bull crap and lies.
What I feel a little bit bad about is, you're 100% right where you ask, okay, I'm going to require this amount of money, and you're going to get higher quality requests, and it'll be more intellectually rewarding, because usually those questions are a little bit more serious. Your counterparty's a little bit more serious. But then there's a piece of me, it's like, well, not everyone has that amount of money.
It's okay. And you've got free videos.
Well, well, yeah, no, you're right about that. But every once in a while, I'll get these. Well, not every once in a while. A lot of times, I'll get these requests. It's like, I got to give the kid a break because he's only 18 or 19. But by God, the question, you're right. It is a racehorse giving pony rides.
Yeah.
And it's just, and maybe that is the new platform. You're there, and we got the books, and here's the video and stuff like that. But for your own personal sanity, for your own personal career satisfaction, yeah, you got to get out of the horse and pony show. Want to ask you a question about suicide, because you and Terrence Pop were talking about. Now, Terrence was about to commit suicide after his divorce. You, in your book, said you weren't even contemplating. You had the fleeting thought. And then also in your book, you're talking about how there's so many men that you have as consults. They're utterly destroyed when their wives leave them, or they get divorced, or something to do with a girl. How prevalent you think that is? Like the tendency to think suicide after your wife leaves you.
I'd say about a third of men have that, like, bottom of the barrel. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I need to take permanent steps to a temporary solution in my life, sort of thing. I'd say about another third just go into deep depression and manage, to make it out, the other end, although they've got some scars to show for it. And there's probably, the other third that just does okay. I don't know a lot of guys. I mean, there's a handful probably that end up doing fine out of the divorce. Like, they were a stay-at-home dad. The mom, went to work. She was an executive, like a C-suiter, making $250,000 a year. And he stayed at home with the kids for 7 or 8 years. And she starts porking, Kevin, the VP of the sales team.
I like Kevin. He's a good friend of mine. I like
Kevin gets around,
He's a very guy.
And, she wants to leave him, and she ends up paying him money and sending him child support payments, or maybe he gets custody of the kids. But that doesn't happen that often. I did a show with one guy that reached out to me a couple weeks ago on Before the Train Wreck. And, he was a guy that got cheated on, and he used at fault during the divorce process and managed to get custody of the kids. And she ends up paying him. But those stories are pretty far and few in between. Like, for the most part, guys get treated pretty unfairly.
Well, and I'm not even necessarily, I am concerned about how the treatment is under the law and the court system, but I am wondering, the larger theory I have is marriage, and then getting divorced, and then getting, and all these men talking about suicide, sometimes contemplating it. The way with a female-centric or female primary order is resulting in an environment that results in kind of a latent, constant background, traumatic, toxic environment for men. And whether it's a very clear event like a divorce, or your wife is cheating on you, or your wife leaves, or whatever, or just dealing with the pain-assery of dating and lying in the game and all that. I'm wondering if men are starting to suffer. All men, I mean this. And I don't mean to be a victim a pimp here or anything like that, but there's some like low level post-traumatic stress that all men are going to be starting to suffer simply because we've upended the relationship between the sexes. And since men are so vested in women, it's the only thing they really want and pursue after. Certainly in the case where there's a divorce, there's that is trauma. But I'm also wondering, like, I don't know how much you've dated in your past, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't traumatic, but by God, it's sucking. There is like this price that you pay. And I'm kind of, do you see that in your clients? Because you did mention your clients and some derivations from that.
Yeah. It really just boils down to the whole blue pill thinking, right? It's, plugged into lies that don't serve you. Unplugging from the lies is basically what my book's about, is unplug from the bullcrap beta stuff and become an unplug alpha sort of thing. As a placeholder term, but yeah, guys just keep putting women first, putting them on a pedestal, thinking that they're sugar and spice and all things nice. And, when they go and get married to the girl and, they take vows, till death do us part, sickness and health and richer and poorer and blah, 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 that everything will just work out fine at the end of the day. And, we can all sit around watching the Disney Channel for, 7 days a week, 300, 24 hours a day, and all think the same thing. But at some point you got to unplug from all that bull crap and realize that there's a new rule book. And this new rule book is something that guys need to get their head around if they want to do well in the world with women and in life. Some guys will say, well, you're spending too much time talking about women and this and that and the other thing. Well, the whole point of you being on the earth is to scatter seed and to be with women. Like, it's in your biological nature. It's in your DNA. You're never going to get away from it. So I'll tell you what, though, I mean, if you're good with understanding female nature and how to get better results with women, you're going to be great at running a business, because it's really about the same sort of thing. It's looking for dangers, being able to adapt, setting and enforcing boundaries. It's like, if I have, I had a guy on yesterday for a private Zoom in my community that's a big time real estate investor in Texas. So he's bought and sold and held about 1,000 different doors by this time. And he's like, what you say, Rich, is completely true when it comes to business and women, because if you have a tenant, or if you have a guy that you've lent money to and they've breached the terms of the agreement, they're going to make up some bullshit. Right. My cat sprained its eye looking at a disco ball, and I had a vet bill for $2,000, and I can't pay you this month, but let me stay another month. And there's business owners that'll yield and make concessions to that, and there's smart business owners that'll say, no, the rules are quite clear. If you can't deal this, I'm going to serve you a notice, stick it on your door, and you're out of the house. It's quite as simple as that. It's the same thing with women. If you're not going to follow the boundaries and guidelines that I set for you in this relationship, you're out of here. It's comply or goodbye. It's the same thing with business, right?
Well, and another thing in this book, and guys, it is a good book. I'm not just saying that because Rich is a friend, and it should really be the number 2 book in sales, but it's still a pretty good book. Another thing I really liked about it is, and again, is there something new in the book? Yes. Even I was shocked. I was shocked how many men you have as consults, men you've ran into that are obsessed about single moms and dating, and they're still, maybe we're just so inculcated into it that it's beyond us. But how many men let women ruin their lives, in particular with single moms? Some men are obsessing about single moms, but go into that a little bit, because we have the benefit of being red pilled, and here we are in the real world in the matrix and blah, blah, blah. But it is shocking to me, the ocean of men that are still like tortured and letting somebody other than themselves determine their happiness and their point and reason in life.
Yeah. Well, women in general will derail men from their purpose, not because they want to, or, because they're dream killers and they try to ruin a guy's life. It's because men let them, and they don't know how to enforce boundaries and how to lead. But when you start dealing with women with children in tow from prior relationships, sometimes multiple kids from prior relationships, you're inviting an entirely new set of problems in your life, right? I mean, as a classic example that would always come up, would be, you have a chick with a kid and a woman with no kids, for example. If you're in the dating phase or you're in the LTR phase, if there's problems with her kids, or there's things going on with her kids in school, or they need money, or they need financial resources, or need a problem to solve, those kids are conveniently going to be your kids as well. But when you need to enforce boundaries or discipline them, then they're her kids, right? And that's not a problem that you run into with a chick without kids. But the problem is that single moms are almost everywhere now because women don't know how to keep their legs closed and use birth control or whatever their freaking problem is today. So most guys running into women when they're dating seem to have kids. I mean, the older you get, I mean, I started to notice it by about 25.
Yeah, about the same. Yeah.
And I was like, why does this 24-year-old chick have a kid? Like, what's her problem? Right. And I would just avoid them. Logically, I would just avoid them. And I got married and then I got divorced. And after I got divorced, everything by the time I was 39 on the dating market was a single mom. And I'm like, well, there's a couple of hot ones. So let's see what they're all about. Right. And that, of course, didn't work out well for me. I talk about my single mom experience in the book a little bit too, as well.
Well, and the numbers I ran, 40% of women between 18 and 35 are single moms. I mean, the percent. I
wouldn't be surprised if it's higher than that.
Well, and maybe it is. I'm pretty sure on my numbers, I calculated it's America numbers with the Census Bureau. And that's just a number. Like sometimes you got to like step back and look at what you're saying, and we just take it for granted. But the idea of a divorce rate being 50%, do you know how dumb and ludicrous that is?
Yeah, it's insane.
Just think like the love of my life, dude. And this has been going on since Boomer World. This has been going on since the 70s. Okay, so this is like the original Trudeau, to liken it to the Canadian history. I mean, this is how far back it goes. One in two, your most important life decision is shot down. 4 in 10 single women already have some other guy's crotch fruit in tow. Yeah. Like. And then but I kind of wanted to wake people up with this, and I saw that in reading through your book where there's all these men who are actually suffering, like not I'm just having problems dating, I'm having troubles supporting, like the number of men that wanted to support a single mom and her children. That was a very shocking number to me, where there's like all these guys that felt obligated to take care of some other guy's bastard, essentially.
Well, they're low-hanging fruit, and if you're not a high enough value guy, then that's what you're going to have to resign yourself to for the most part if you're going to date women. I mean, if you're over 30 and you're not at least an 8 or 9 out of 10, you're probably going to be messing with single moms, right? And you're going to be dealing with a lot of baggage. In my view, it's not worth your while. Like I just say, just take a break, work on yourself, go MGTOW, like do whatever the hell you want. But your ROI is going to be far better on yourself than messing with some other chick with a bunch of kids in tow from prior relationships. Forget it.
No, and this then throws us up against the wall of, are they going to do the work? Are they going to wake up? Are they going to realize? And so I've seen many men have one-itis, a single mom or not, and there's no. We'd like to take a logical computer type approach where X plus Y equals Z. And there's this human aspect of, I'd hate to say love, but certainly emotion or at least hormones involved, where it's, you can't unplug them. They're just committed to it.
Yeah. They need to get kicked in the nuts before they realize getting kicked in the nuts is a bad thing.
You just make that up?
I just make that up. Yeah.
That's good. You need to get kicked in the nuts to realize you're kicked. That's good. We'll go to.
You can use that if you want.
I don't want to plagiarize you. I want to beat you fair and square. I'm going to come up with a book. Don't worry, Rich. I'm going to come up with a book.
I'm waiting.
Completely childish and sophomoric. What about that vice president guy that fired you? Have you ever looked him up on LinkedIn?
No, I actually ran into him a few years ago, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. We went out to lunch because we were working on a deal with another agency with my debt business, and he happened to be in town. He actually got transferred down to the U.S. We had a nice conversation. There was no animosity. I mean, I'm a grown-ass adult. Like I don't care. He didn't care. We had our moment in the sand then. We kind of moved on from it. Okay.
Well, that's very more mature. I'm much more petty. I've looked up previous bosses of mine. I'm like, I'm glad you're miserable.
I'm probably doing better than he is. I mean, he landed a really good job and has a great pay scale. But at the end of the day, I don't worry about that. I mean, like I'm more, I guess, petty in the sense where I won't deal with people that are idiots or they're losers and they try to compromise my life or expose risk to my family. I've talked about that over the last few years. I don't want to get into it, but there's been a couple of people, during that time where I've just kept them at arm's length and fuck them. I'm never going to mess with them ever again, or anybody that works with them.
Well, it's just in the book. I'm like, oh, that dick. That was not fair to Rich. I mean, I was kind of cheering for you there, but I was kind of like, I hope he's in a wheelchair or something
Well,
like
if it
that.
wasn't
But
for him, at the end of the day, I might have been there for several years longer, right? So, the kick in the ass that he gave me to throw me out the door was actually a good thing in hindsight. That's why I never held it against him.
There's more wisdom to that. Well, you probably know the wisdom to it, but one of the worst things that happened to me in my life ended up becoming the best thing. There's this guy ended up having to sue for impersonating me, and it committed me to go down this route. And at the time, it looked like, oh, this is horrible, lawsuits, expenses, and things like that. It was the best thing. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that person trying to impersonate me. Was
he trying to impersonate you in the work world as the
no on the internet? This is way back in the day. It doesn't matter. Basically a troll is all it was. And but in the olden days, you didn't know. And oh my gosh, Mary, this is when I thought I was actually going to be. But it forced me to get out of banking and become this. And a lot of you boys out there, like if you ever get fired, unjustly or not, or something bad happens to you, maybe that's the real world telling you something.
Yeah.
And maybe you just go with the flow, to quote John Candy from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You'd be surprised where it might take you. But sometimes your enemies, or may not your enemies, but people you disagree with, or bad things that happen, is the best thing to happen to you.
I don't know if you ever heard the reason, season, lifetime thing.
No, what's that?
I got this from one of these hokey pokey, my best friend's mom was into these energy crystals and shit. And I thought it was kind of interesting at the time, but it kind of stuck with me, she said something along the lines of people will come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I've got people in my life that will always be around in my life, obviously. And I've had people that have come into my life for a reason, like my old, VP probably did, to throw me out of that collection agency and give me that package to go home and start up my own thing. So I think you got to look for the silver lining in everything. And I mean, the thing that I struggle with the most, Aaron, is it's like, I'm the kind of guy that will just get shit done. I don't care what obstacle falls in the way. I'll figure out a path or a route around it. Sometimes the obstacle becomes a way, but I just don't have a lot of patience for people that like to sulk and complain and whine and whinge about, oh, I got a crappy hand dealt to me. Well, life gives you lemons, you make lemon meringue pie, right? It's not that bad of a thing. So just having the gumption to deal with challenges in life is a skill that most guys don't have anymore. And that's a lot of what I talk about in the book, without defining it to that fine of a point. But it's like, there's work that needs to be done and things that you need to learn, and there's beliefs that you need to update. So let's just get started.
Did you study Stoics or Stoicism much, or is this just through your life experience? Like why? Because I agree with you 100%. Like I wake up and the GF will be sleeping out like that, and I'm like, well, I should get some coffee and check emails or go do something. And a lot of people they got to warm up, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to die. And this is, maybe we could talk religion or something like that. But the fact I'm not sure there's an afterlife and I'm not truly immortal makes my time incredibly effing precious right now. I agree, yeah. I don't know what people are waiting for or what they're going to do. I take a day off or something like that. But you have that compunction too, I presume that.
Yeah. Like I don't study Stoicism. I know what it is. There's a lot of guys that jerk off to it all day long on the internet, and they'll talk about the great Stoics that they are, but it's like, what the fuck have you done with your life? Like, are you doing anything of any significance? Are you enjoying it? How has your life improved this year over the last 3 or 5 years ago, sort of thing? So yeah, okay, maybe I am a little bit of a Stoic, and I don't preach about it, but it's like, just take ownership for yourself and get out there and just get it done. One of the things that I always learn from my dad is just get it done, Richard. Just like quit fucking sulking, get your head down and just get it done and just do the work. Right. And that just always stuck with me. If I can thank him for one gift that he gave me, he sure as fuck didn't teach me how to deal with women, but at least he gave me that.
He's got a nice beard like you or no?
No, he's got a great mustache though.
Got a nice mustache.
I was actually looking for the video. I couldn't find it. I don't even know what I titled.
So, well, when you get it, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see your old man. We got to do what would be really cool. Unfortunately, Rollo's parents, I think, have passed away, but we got to get all of our old men together
I do
So
that.
they could all commiserate. Say, I can't believe this fucking idiot makes money on the NLEs. Oh yeah, you think you got a fucking idiot? Look at my idiot son over there. I can't believe these tards. I mean, it'd be great to see them bitch about it. It'd be hilarious. It'd just be
like
wonderful.
the grumpy old man show, right?
Yeah. Like
some guys like to call us grumpy men, but wait till you hear that nonsense.
Where did I get a couple other questions here? Oh, soft next. What the hell is that? I didn't even know about. What's a soft next?
Soft nexting her is you just, she causes drama unnecessarily. Then you soft next her. You just don't talk to her for a few days. You don't respond to her texts. You don't answer her phone calls. You just basically put her in a timeout. And then at some point after a few days, you just say, all right, have you learned your lesson sort of thing? And let's carry on and let her know that's a line in the sand that you can't cross again.
But why is it a soft next? I'm trying to figure out the terminology.
A hard next is fuck off. You're out of here. A soft next is like a timeout.
Okay, so you don't respond. You're not kicking her out and telling her go pound sand. You just don't respond to an email or something. Okay,
yeah, you just don't respond to text messages, phone calls. You don't answer your phone. You don't respond to nothing. She wants to show up. The door's locked. She doesn't get access to the house, sort of thing. I don't have to soft next my girl anymore. Like I had to do it maybe like, I don't know, once or twice, but not that often.
There's a fair amount. One of these, I'd be very curious because you were married and you've had girlfriends since, and certainly in the post red pill mentality. You ever hear of Walter E. Williams?
No, who's that?
Okay, Rush Limbaugh, right?
No.
Okay. Rush Limbaugh, American broadcaster, conservative talk show host, probably the flagship. Unfortunately, a stage
kind of like
cancer.
a Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, but the original guy. This is the original guy. I don't know how else to. There's only one of him. He was the groundbreaking guy that he started in the 80s. So you'd have a guy called Walter E. Williams, and Walter E. Williams, I think, has passed away since. Traditional conservative. Free market economist, I think at George Mason University, black dude, very polished, very dapper. And he would always say, gentlemen, let me tell you how to train your wives. And he'd always go into wife training. And I think there is, since you and I are older and a lot of the younger guys are going to spin plates and all that. And I don't know about you. I'm too old I'm not going to go spin plates. I'm not going to go date ever again. I'm just too old and I'm too tired for that shit. But there is going to be a stage where men just burn out. Your testosterone goes down. You don't want to deal with it. There's going to be, I think in the future, a fair amount of wife training or girlfriend training. And like we've talked about before, can you train them or do you set boundaries? Obviously, you set the boundaries. But the soft next, that is in the book a little bit. But I mean, have you gotten an experience dating? Now you've had a couple girlfriends since. And was you just follow some rules or have you come up with any other observations and epiphanies?
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that I've come up with, I definitely dropped into the book. But I mean, the thing about women when you're dating them or into a long-term relationship is you got to understand, like, what was that movie? I think it was Jack Nicholson where, he got questioned. Yeah, As Good as It Gets. Like, why are you so good with women? Why do you understand them? I think his response was something along the lines of, well, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability. And that's kind of how you have to deal with women, right? Not to say like they're children or anything like that, but they're not men. I mean, and one of the biggest mistakes that guys make with women, I find, is they think that men and women are equal, and they're not. I mean, we're different and we're complementary if you understand what that is and how that works. But with women, you've got to enforce boundaries, and you've got to have a line in the sand that they can't cross. And if they cross it, then there's got to be consequences for that. We saw what happened with Myron. We were talking about that on the Rule Zero, where he got thrown off of TikTok because he said that you got to punish women if they cancel you, cancel on a date, and women lost their ever loving fucking minds on that. But I mean, you can call it punishment or you can call it consequences. It doesn't matter. But there's got to be a barrier set, because women are like children in the sense that kids like to throw rocks on the ice to see how strong it is. Women will test your resolve as a man. Like, that's basically what a shit test is. You guys have heard of the term shit test, and that's basically women shit testing you to see if you're up to spec and up to par. And that's what kids do when they throw, rocks on the ice. They want to see how tough it is. So you as a guy need to be resolute and enforce boundaries if they push into areas that are unacceptable.
One thing I wrestle with it to this day is I don't have much of a religion, but if I do have a religion, it's libertarianism, not in the political sense, but I value and cherish the individual and freedom more than anything. Yeah. And the problem I face, and maybe a lot of other freedom-minded individualists face, is I want the girl to have agency. Not only because I don't want the pain-assery of managing a woman and no, you can't do this and no, you can't, but I've slowly come to the realization that you cannot just give them 100% freedom.
No.
There is always some kind of, I hate to use the word management, but there is always a tethering or you got to lay down the law every once in a while. And this idea of true free will and you will make your right choice. And if you want to be with me, you could, like, there was one instance where the girl had a little to drink and it was a company party. And I'm like, it's time to get going. And you know, no, it's like, no, now we're going. And it pisses me off because it goes against my principles. I don't like being a dictator. I don't like telling people what to do. Least of all, because they have the right then to tell me what to do. But I don't like being responsible for other people. But by gosh, I mean, even the most conservative, libertarian, financially independent women, you still have to go and have like a little bit of a leash. And it's a regretful thing. I know it's a fact, but it's regretful nonetheless in my mind.
Yeah, you're always going to have responsibility as a guy when you've got women in your lives, whether it's girlfriend, sister, mom, daughter, whatever it is. You're always going to have some level of responsibility. The problem that most guys deal with today that they don't understand and how to kind of deal with it is you've often lost much of your authority. So many guys might say, okay, well, girlfriend, it's time to go now. And she'd be like, no, I don't want to go. I'm having a good time. And it's like, you know, and if you try to put your foot down and say, no, we're going, then she starts pushing back like, I'm an independent woman and you don't own me and I don't see no rings on this finger and all this kind of shit. It's like, all right, well, some guys would be like, okay. Right. But you still have to express authority in a relationship when you're with a woman. And if she's not going to respect that, then she can fuck off. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, there's plenty of women out there.
No, I've walked away. I'm like, it's time to go. No. And this is in my youth when I wasn't really committed. I'd leave a girl at a dance hall. I'd leave a girl at a salsa club. And where are you? I'm at home playing video games. I mean, and it's a certain amount of respect.
When I said I was going to leave?
Yeah, no, and maybe you've ran into this. I'm amazed how women in general, not saying all of them, but women in general seem to have a problem with the English language. Like the girlfriend will come up to,
like you're kidding, right?
Yeah, like the GF. This happens. This is any woman. This has nothing to do. But do you want split pea soup? No, I don't. Well, why don't you want split pea soup? And already I've gone from 0 to pissed off. It's like, bitch, I fucking told you. I don't want no fucking split pea soup. It's not reflection upon you. Just, did you not hear the words? No, I don't want split pea soup. Like, Richard, if I asked you, Richard, what's your favorite color?
Oh, you're asking me? It's orange.
Yeah, I'm asking, what's your favorite color?
Orange, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty fucking sure, Aaron. Guys don't ask other guys that question, right? Like, are you sure it's orange?
But that's because they want, and you got to get to the point, like, if I have to answer the same question 3 times, there's going to be problems. And it's just this tatum. It's like,
story.
Yeah, I like stories. 20s. I can't wait to hear the story. Tell me the story.
No, I've always got stories. Let me tell you the story from my 20s, because I was dating this chick that was a few years older than me. I think I was 23 at the time and she was 26. She was hot. And I was going to the grocery store with her. No frills here. You know, for those guys that aren't in Canada, it's a no frills grocery store. It's basically the cheapest ass grocery store that you can go to. And I was driving my, I think, 1989 Suzuki Swift GTI, which was a nice little hot hatch, you know, for me at the time. And she's chirping me about why. See, because one of the things that women like to do with guys is they like to compare your worst to some other guy's best, which will be something like, well, Jamie doesn't leave his socks lying around, so why can't you pick up your socks like Jamie does? And it's like, bitch, Jamie makes fucking half the amount of money that I do. Shut up, right? That's what you're thinking in your head. But anyway, so she starts, you know, comparing something that's my worst to some other guy's best, and then it turns into, well, you're cheap. And I was like, oh, really? Fucking grabbed the wheel. I didn't even hit the brakes. Okay.
Was she on the back of the motorcycle?
No, this was in my car. I
Oh,
didn't
is it
even
your
grab the
car? Okay.
fucking brakes. I just grabbed the top of the steering wheel like this, and I yanked it like this, and I did a fucking 90-degree turn. The back tire probably came up in the air as I cocked the car around, almost flipped the car. I didn't say anything. I just drove straight home. And she's like, "What's going on? Why are you behaving like this?" I'm like, I just reached over. I opened the door. I said, "Get the fuck out." And I pushed her out of the car. She got out of the car. I just carry on with my business, and I go to the fucking grocery store to get my groceries. And I'm walking down the aisle, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's her. She follows me to the grocery store to apologize, right? You will be surprised what women will do when you put your foot down and you enforce boundaries with them and let them know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
And see, and that's philosophically, I'm too ideological, too idealistic, I guess, too. I don't want to do that. Like, I shouldn't have to. And I know.
Yeah, you don't want to do it because you figure.
Yeah, your agency, you're strong, independent, blah, blah, blah. All this crap I've heard since I was like 5 effing years old.
Right.
But the reality is, no, you still have a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a responsibility, a regency, like a regent would be put in charge of a younger, like the king would die, but his son was 2 years old. Mm-hmm. So there'd be a regent that was put in charge of it.
King
this,
yeah,
like this, you have some kind of obligation. You have some kind of responsibility to tend to them. But it's just so effing tiring. But it doesn't change the fact it's real. That's what happens. You have to. Even the smartest gals in the world, the ones that are the most, they're still women. And in the end, you do, and they will test you no matter what. Even if they don't need your money, they will, because it's in their genetic code.
They will test you less and less over time, though. I mean, like once you start enforcing the boundaries, then they'll stop trying to push into it. And if they do, it's like, do I need to drop you off at home again? You know, like, do we need to have this conversation again, sort of thing? Because it's a no-fly zone. It's like it has to be like if you set a bottom line, like a line in the sand, and they cross that, you have to let them know it's absolutely unfucking acceptable. They get a soft next, and if it happens again, you can turn into a hard next and just tell them to pound sand and just go bang somebody else.
One thing for those of you, if you ever go down the road and you happen to have a significant other, you just, one of the policies I have is I don't argue.
Yeah, there's no point in arguing.
I've stated my position. This is either thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs down, go, dude. You're free to go, and that's where the libertarianism and the freedom and agency, like you are free to go and do whatever you want whenever you want. Open. Yep, you can. But this, we're not arguing, and I think that's probably a really good policy to have. Speaking of lines in the sense, like we don't argue. And holding them to the English language, which. What did I just say? I'm confused. Have I? And I've done this kind of tongue in cheek, and it's kind of funny and comical. Like I literally just told you da 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 da. What don't you understand?
That line, Aaron, I'm confused, is fucking brilliant. If I learned anything from my ex-wife, I mean, she's a lawyer, so this is something that they use in standard legal language now. Whenever they get pushed back with something that's utterly retarded, they'll just be like, I'm confused. I thought I stated this and it was clear, right? So whenever a chick or anyone for that matter does something that crosses a boundary or a bottom line for you, I like to respond with, I'm confused. Explain this, and it's like, no.
Explain this fuckery to me is basically what you're saying. Yeah.
State that fuckery again, because I'm very confused with said fuckery.
I think what a lot of young men, if we can impart wisdom to young men, if that's possible, I think that with language is actually technically a math. I mean, there's a logic, there's a structure to it. And anytime there's fuckery or lying, or like more modernly, the left, SJWs will take words and manipulate them to mean something that they're not. I think any man, whether with women or in business negotiations or at your corporate, anytime someone says something that doesn't make sense, it's 95% guarantee someone's trying to fuck you over or put one over you. It's not that you're dumb. I mean, this is something I wish I could have told myself when I was much younger, man, because I thought, well, I'm a young, stupid boy, and this guy's got gray hair. He must know something. I must be screwing up. And when I look back, I'm like, no, these guys are just trying to fuck you over, get free labor out of you or lower wage or whatever. Anytime something doesn't make sense, 95% chance they're trying to fuck you over in some way or another. You're not missing out on anything. Now you got to ask, I'm confused. Explain this to me again. Did I miss a piece of the formula? And then you'll usually look back. It's just whether you can put your own self-respect ahead of your desire to get laid by that girl is what the real question is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
We have a $50 donation, which is very,
look at that.
That's a very charitable. So I want to hit, and then for those of you who did make donations, maybe we'll get to them. But I will do a missed super chat, but this is a lot. SMP of Lexington LLC for $50. Rich, if you pass the LA Scalp Micropigmentation Clinic, check out mine. I was trained in LA. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. But if you're this guy, he was a sponsor of mine. I remember. Yeah, he has a hair thing stuff going on.
Yeah,
I'll hook you up. Have you ran into him before?
I haven't, no, but I just put out a video today. I'm guessing he saw it. I was mentioning in it, like, one of the remedies that some guys use is they use micropigmentation on the scalp, and I've seen some done that actually look quite good. And I had a place down in LA that was offering to do mine. It was like a sponsor sort of thing, and then COVID hit. I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to deal with it. Who cares? Well,
do you want your hair back? Because you're kind of iconic being bald and you've owned it. Do you even give a crap whether you have hair or not?
Not really. I mean, yeah, sure. Would you love to have a full head of hair? But at the same time, I like getting up in the morning and not having bedhead, or I just fucking shave it, and it's pretty straightforward. I don't have to style it, gel it, or none of that nonsense. And it doesn't keep you from getting the girls, to be honest with you. I actually got these peptides that Jay Campbell sent me, which apparently make your hair grow back. And I'm not sure if they're working. I'm gonna finish the bottles that that he sent me, but I'll let you guys know. But I'll keep it in mind. SMP of Lexington. I mean, if you want to shoot me an email, I'll just start and keep it in my inbox, and I'll consider it later. But it's just entrepreneursincars@gmail.com.
If anything, I'm just getting more ear and nose hair.
Yeah,
I mean, thankfully my grandpa
hair off the head, and it starts to come out your nose, ears, and your back for some reason.
Well, I'm thankful my grandpa on my mom's side had a full set of hair, so I'm very thankful for that. But my God, I'm like nose trimmers. Who I like some old guy was there. Like, no, what are those? Those are nose hair trimmers. I'm like, what gay crap is this? And now I'm like, this is the best invention ever. Got like ear hair. I got the GF like drilling out coal out of my ears.
You get older, you see those old videos of these fucking like pilots from like the Second World War that are like 80, and they've got like fucking hair growing out their eyebrows with whiskers in all kinds of different directions. You can't wait for that, right?
That's my stepdad. He's got he looked like a horned owl.
Yeah, they fucking come out gnarly, and they curl up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
like mustache wax and stuff.
My mom's all like, "Oh, but it's so distinguished in the GF." She's just like, she will literally, she has to groom me. I'm like, okay, I'll let them have their battles. Yeah. And so she'll if there's one hair out of my eyebrow, she got to go and clean that up. But and you could just see her kind of she meets my stepdad, and she's like, I want to cut his eyebrow. Like, nope, got to leave it there. That's it. The old man served well in Vietnam. So,
there you go.
I'm just trying to catch up, make sure there's not a lot more super chats here. Let's go to Juan, the Aztec Patriarch. Rich, how do I get the cars in order to get the girls?
Money. Next question. It's simple. I mean, cars cost money. Just make bank.
Yeah. I did want to ask that. So you had in your book, you mentioned that motorcycling. I didn't know you were that passionate about it, and I happen to agree with you. It's very meditative. It's almost is a religion. And what was it? You had a kid, and your buddy died, and
no, I stopped riding when I was 30. I mean, I didn't have my kid until my mid 30s, but yeah, I just rode from 18 to 30, and I fucking loved it. It was great. My eyesight's not as good as it used to be. I might have to get that clear lens replacement surgery if I do start riding again, because I hate wearing glasses and a fucking helmet. But yeah, I've always loved bikes. I mean, I figured at some point, because I rode so much, my number would probably come up, and I had friends that would stop riding. So I was like, I got this bike now, and I'm riding by myself a lot. I really preferred riding with other guys and just having fun. So I mean, I've taken a sabbatical. I mean, if anything, I've replace motorcycles with supercars. So I kind of do the same thing that I did in my 20s with motorcycles, with the guys that I hang out with now at my age, going on the rallies and hanging out at the supercar clubs and the Cars and Coffee, and just tearing up the streets and having the cops call on us all the time. It's fun.
What, if I recall correctly, you had predominantly crotch rockets. Did you ever do any cruiser bikes or go on any long distance rides? No,
I did quite a few long distance rides on the crotch rockets, but it was always crotch rockets. Yeah. I had 4 different motorcycles.
Wow. How'd you because I went from Wyoming to Arizona and back on a crotch rock, and I had to learn to ride like straddled and all those other things just to make sure like blood got to my legs. I mean,
I had a friend that rode his bike from the Bay Area to Toronto, and it was a crotch rocket. It was a GSXR 750.
well, Hudson Bay or what bay?
No, California Bay Area.
Oh, California. Okay.
He rode all the way across the country with a fucking backpack and a tank bag.
Well, now that you're older, you might want to, because I was a crotch rocket guy because I was young and I wanted to go fast. And then I started getting into cruiser bikes, and they're way more comfortable. And if you're in Canada, man, you got some great riding out there in the Canadian Rockies and all the way
to the Rockies is on the West Coast. Like that's a 5-hour flight away alone. It's not like I'm going to ride there just I think I'm going to go hit the mountains. I'm going to hit the fucking Rockies. It's going to take me a week to get there on a motorcycle. But yeah, like I do like the cruiser bikes. There's some nice looking muscle bikes like the V-Rods, and there's a Suzuki Boulevard with a 1900 like V-twin. I'm not saying that I'm not going to get on a bike again. It's just I actually kind of prefer having a cage around me. So if something does go wrong, I've got all that with the fucking airbags now.
The best motorcycle ride I ever had is I went to Hyder, Alaska. So I had to go through your fine country there. But en route, went through Revelstoke, Castlegar, the Canadian Rockies, Prince George, British Columbia, Katwanga, I think British Columbia. Just amazing. Have you done that stretch, Highway 93 between Banff and Jasper?
I've driven up to Whistler from Vancouver, which is a nice drive, but I haven't driven that far up north.
Oh, fly to Calgary, because speaking of the 5 hour, it's more than 5 hours. I drove from Minneapolis to Regina, and my God, Saskatchewan is flat.
Yeah,
that is. I thought North Dakota was nothing, and then I get to Saskatchewan. I'm like, holy cow, there is nothing out there.
Yeah, it's flat.
And all of a sudden, then you see Calgary way off in the distance. It's like, oh, finally some mountains. That's it. Yeah. What else did I have here? Oh, one final thing. I have a philosophical question. We'll get that later here. Our job is basically passing on wisdom so people make better decisions. And I've had to wrestle philosophically with the idea of wisdom. Do you think wisdom can be passed on, especially to younger people, in our particular case, younger men, or do they got to suffer a pain to actually incorporate it into their life? Because you and I could give everyone, this is a book of wisdom. This is a book of numbers and wisdom. One thing I've had, especially within my consulting, I see kids that actually do follow my advice, and I'm an engineer, and it feels great. I'm like, yes, like they did it. But for every one of them, there's like 4 to 5 people that didn't. And I'm just wondering, like, I think it was Jung said you had to pay a price in order to value anything. Have you had any success? You think you can actually pass on wisdom to people?
Well, I do pass on wisdom like you do, but I don't think it's like 1 in 4 or 5. I feel like it's more like 1 in 50 that actually do the work.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I've got a community of guys. There's just over 500 in there now, but I mean, like we have a lot of banter throughout the day, and there's a lot of questions and asks and gives, through one another. And there's even guys in there that are, without this coming off disparaging, like I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but there's even guys in there that are just masturbating, and they're not actually doing the work and listening to the words that have been said. Like they want to get in there and they want to do the work and they want to level up, but they're not taking ownership for their lives and the work that needs to be done. So does trauma help? Does it move them closer to, the realization that there's work that needs to be done? I'm going to say, yeah, but not necessarily. I mean, I know a lot of guys that didn't need to go through the divorce machine and lose everything and not see their fucking kids and be, like alienated and be milked through the grinder, that got it. They got it long before all of that even happened. So does it help? Yeah, it certainly moves them to it faster. But even then, I mean, you can lead a horse to water. It's not always going to drink.
Right. And what I'm seeing is, for example, I got a buddy called Glorious Carl. His real name is not Glorious Carl, but he's got a kid, and this kid, straight aces, found a gal, beautiful gal, traditional redhead, of which I'm biased towards. And he's in the Navy nuke program. He's making all the right moves. And I'm wondering, since this kid, it's not that he didn't put in the work, but he never suffered. Like, does he really appreciate and what I'm finding is over time, and I think this is maybe the only way people will cement the wisdom in them is, okay, maybe they don't know why, or they're not scared through trauma or trials or tribulations or pain, But over the long haul, all of a sudden you're a 35-year-old guy, you're sitting on $250,000 investable assets, your house is half paid off, your wife is pretty hot, and you compare yourself to your friends, or you go to your 20-year reunion or whatever. That's when I think it starts to vindicate, but it's such a slow burn. It's such a slow vindication or proof that you did the right thing, that I wish there was a way to short circuit. They're like, look, just trust me for now. Do what I say and your life will be much better. But it's not until you're 20 years older and you get a little bit of gray hair, you got to start to appreciate it.
Yeah. The hardships at a younger age, certainly, I mean, it helped me. Like I was working from definitely under 10. I was probably doing like entrepreneurial things at 7 or 8, even, if I can recall some of them, but I always had to do something to earn. Like money was never given to me. I was paying rent when I was fucking 14 or 15 years old in my house. Right. So,
I got to meet your old man then.
It hardens a man, right?
My first job, technically, I sold frogs.
Cool.
I sold frogs. Yep. There was to the church going kids, because my dad was a pastor. We'd have like Sunday school or vacation Bible school, because every kid wants to go do. Huh?
What did frogs trade for? Were they like a dime? Or
I can't. No, it was maybe a quarter, because what would end up happening is the kids would show up for Sunday vacation Bible school or whatever, and they'd have their donation envelope. And I didn't know how much money was in there. And it was how much their parents gave them. Maybe it was a quarter, maybe it was $1. This is 78, 79. So, quarter was $1 back then. And we would just give them a frog, because we found a group of frogs. We'd give them frogs and we got the donation, and then we'd open it. And then when they found out the collection plate was a little light, I think our racketeering thing got busted. And but frogs for donation money, it was a good racket while it lasted, for the hot hour it might have. But
sell those frogs, man.
Yeah, sell the frogs. All right. Well, listen, why don't tell people about your book and your website and everything like that. We got it right here. But go into it, give it your own plug, because you'll sell it better than I can. Yeah,
grab it on Amazon. You can get it as a Kindle or print. I'm working on the recording myself. I will be reading it. It probably won't be out for a few months. But yeah, Unplugged Alpha, the no bullshit guide to winning with women and life. It's an easy day long read, and Aaron loved it. So that's probably the greatest endorsement that I could give it.
Yeah, no, it is a good book. And our joking aside, no, it really is. I would say it's a must. And for any young man out there who's new to this is a very good first introductory book. Maybe save the Rational Mail for later. Maybe
it's a little more dense. Yeah,
that
fire hose. But
are you going to read Rollo's new? I'm going to read it, but I'm just kind of wincing at it, because it's just.
I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to wait for Sam to narrate it, and then I'll listen to it. Is it okay if I grab the link, or if you grab the link and?
I'll hang on. I'll grab it here.
Just drop it in the comments for these guys, so it's easy.
It's in the description below. The Unplugged Alpha. Find that right here. What are you at now? Good Lord, 284 reviews. Oh,
I sold 3,000 copies in the first month, buddy.
That's awesome, man.
Do you have your books on Ingram Spark?
What's Ingram Spark?
They distribute to bookstores. So I guess these book buyers go looking for good sellers in certain categories. And then they'll just order like a bulk order, and they'll put it in the bookstore shelves. So if you go to Ingram Spark, you'll also get a wider distribution as well.
Maybe I'll do that then. Yeah, I'll have to. There's a billion things to do. Look, you're 8,300th place. It's your first kind of real book. Did you expect it to be doing this good?
I don't know. Is that good? 8,000.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Yeah. It's a lot like, I guess, fans only, or any kind of exponential distribution. The percentage of people that make money. Anytime you're above 50,000th place, that's great. You're selling at least 5-6 books a day.
Oh, okay.
And if you're at 8,000, that's that's spectacular. It's I'm just jealous. That's all.
Well, I didn't do it for the money or for the book sales. I really just wanted to distill everything and put it in something somebody could have on a bookshelf and give to their son, or a single mom wanted to give it to their son, or a guy wanted to give it to his brother. I didn't really care. I just wanted to put something out there that could get into guys' hands that will be there long after I'm dusting the fucking ground and dead.
No, it is very well written. It's very digestible, so I can't recommend it enough. Anyway, thank you, Rich, for coming on the show. Everybody go check out Rich's book. Check out Rich's YouTube channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars. And we'll see you guys later. Toodles.
Thanks, buddy.